I use so many dishes, and I use at least one roll of paper towels, at least. I can rest in God. I can rest in knowing that He has a plan and that He has a purpose for my life. And when it's my time, then it's my time, and I will be okay in this waiting season. All right, now that we have the strawberries cut up, I'm going to take the cake out of the pan. This is where it usually gets a little dicey. This is always the part that makes me nervous, to transfer it from here to the cooling rack. Nice. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Felicia, and I make content documenting my journey through life as a Christian wife, a homemaker, a future mom, and a seasoned entrepreneur. In today's video, we're going to be making one of my favorite recipes from one of my favorite bakers, bloggers, influencers. Her name is Sarah from Broma Bakery. It is a strawberry shortcake, super easy, super light, and it's one of my favorite desserts. So while I do that, we'll just be chatting while I cook, just like how when my friends come over, we like to just hang out in the kitchen, cook together, and then we'll usually take a break and we'll sit down, have a cup of tea, and just talk about everything going on in our life. Thank you for joining me today. I'm super excited to make this, especially because lately I've been trying to cut back on eating sugar. So I told myself that I will try to only eat sweets if I cook it myself at home, because I know that I can control the ingredients, I can control the amount of sugar. So it's been a while, and I'm really excited. And I'm going to pull up the recipe because with me chatting and cooking at the same time, I will leave things out. So I'll just have this pulled up here. Strawberry shortcakes always remind me of when I was a kid and we would get the little prepackaged, those little like yellow cakes, and then put the canned whipped cream with strawberries on it. One thing about me too, when I cook, I move extremely slow. It's almost like therapeutic for me, and I don't really like to rush through it if I don't have to. I usually wait until I have a good amount of time to cook things and to be really slow and intentional about what I'm doing and be present, not be in a rush. Especially with baking, like one wrong measurement and it can just really throw off the whole dish. Just gonna sift that out and get all the little clumps out of it. Then our salt. I always love a one-pot recipe where I don't have to use a million different. This one just requires one pot that you mix everything in for the cake, and then just a separate one for the whipped cream on top. Super simple, less dishes, because when I cook, I use so many dishes, and I use at least one roll of paper towels, at least. I always like to line my cutting board. That way I just throw away the paper and I don't have to clean it and put oil on it, because nobody has time for all of that. And I'm still shocked that I'm even in the kitchen and enjoying it, because a couple years ago, if you would have told me that I would be making videos cooking, I wouldn't believe it at all. Now, just being a lot more intentional about focusing on my home and putting just as much, if not more, time into my home than I do in my business. It's felt a lot easier cooking and maintaining a certain atmosphere in my home. So now, the fun part. Let's see if I can get through this without making a mess, which I usually do not. All right, this is looking good. I forgot to preheat the oven to 350, so I'm just gonna do that. And after this, we just add the milk and vanilla extract, mix it up, put it in the oven. It's so weird baking stuff that doesn't require eggs. It almost feels as if I'm leaving a step out, but it's all gonna come together. 350. So we make a well in the center of the bowl. And then add everything in the middle. So 1 cup of milk. I like to take this recipe and make little mini strawberry shortcakes too. Come out really good, especially when we have people over for dinner and it's easier to just kind of make the individual ones because this recipe doesn't really hold up too well in the fridge for that long because then the strawberries start to kind of get soggy and then they get all on the whipped cream. It tastes good, but it can be a little much. So I kind of like to just make it where we're just done with it that same day. It says a teaspoon of vanilla extract, but you can never have too much. So I'll do about a teaspoon of regular. And then my cousin who bakes gave me this Madagascar bourbon vanilla bean paste. It just takes it to the next level. So I'm just gonna add a little of that. I use this on everything. Probably should have mixed the paste beforehand, but it's okay. I'm gonna try not to overmix. I hate when recipes say do not overmix, but then you like start second guessing. You feel like it's not mixed enough, but then you don't want to go overboard. And I always get right to that point of being overboard. But that should be good. And then I already pre-cut the little circle that goes inside of the baking dish just to help make sure that it doesn't stick. Just want to grease the sides, and I usually put like a little on the bottom just to help the paper to stick. And we'll just transfer our batter. Just said don't overmix. Just had to give it a couple more mixes for good measure. It's supposed to be in an even layer, but I feel like it's pretty even. We just add a little bit of coarse sugar to it. It's either like demerara or turbinado sugar. It gives it a nice little crunch. I also find that for baking with me, the quality of the ingredients, they do matter. I usually try to cook with organic as much as possible and just better quality ingredients, even though it's funny, like my grandma was a really good cook and it's not like she was using organic or things like that. But I also think that the quality of food back then was a little bit different than now. So that could play a part as well. But for me, I find that when I use better quality ingredients, it usually comes out a lot better. So Our oven is preheated to 350, and then we're just going to put this in the oven for 35 minutes. So while the cake is in the oven and we have a little bit of time together while we wait, I wanted to sit down and connect. Usually when my friend comes over and we cook together, while we're waiting, we'll sit down, we'll have a cup of tea and just connect on a deeper level. So once I get this done, then we'll head over there and we'll chat. Today, I just wanted to sit down and chat with you. I have my cup of tea. This is one of my favorites. It's a turmeric ginger tea by Organic India. I usually like to do that, and then I'll mix a little bit of collagen powder in it by needed. So that way I can get my protein with my tea. I just like it plain, completely unsweetened. But I just like that it's warm. I feel like it's soothing for me. It's not necessarily about the taste. But today, I guess speaking of resting and relaxing, I've been thinking a lot lately about how in the past I used to suffer from anxiety, and it took me a lot to get to the place where I am now where I don't even notice it at all. It's not really a thing for me. And a lot of that changed when I deepened my relationship with God. And I remember different Christian mentors that I have, different people that I know, they would always tell me that I need to rest in the Lord or I need to rest in God. And it sounded simple, but I couldn't really understand exactly what that looked like for me and exactly how to do that. And they would just tell me over and over. And I'm the type of person, my mind works in systems, or I need a framework, or you do step one, step two, step three. I also am typically somebody that likes to have control. So it's difficult when I don't, and things aren't as easy as step one, step two, step three. So I wrestled with that for a long time, and I would just pray about it and ask God to teach me what it even meant to rest in Him. The only resting that I knew was falling asleep in my prayer closet after I'm sitting there reading my Bible or get tired, but I didn't know what it just meant in my everyday life for me. So one day I just had all of these different anxious thoughts and had a lot of different decisions to make, wasn't really quite sure what to do. And I told myself I would give myself 90 days. So I came up with this 90-day plan, and I wrote down a few things that I wanted to just release, like negative thoughts, anxious thoughts. And so I told the dog. Excuse my dogs in the background. They've done so good today with filming. They've been relatively quiet, but they're getting a little restless. So you may hear them. Their names are Denver and Boulder, two huge, huge Great Danes. But anyway, like I was saying, I gave myself this 90-day plan, and I wrote down the list of things that I wanted to just completely release. So I said, for these 90 days, I will not think of these things. Maybe at the end of the 90 days, I'll worry about it. But for that time period, I was just going to let it go. And I was assuming that by the end of the 90 days, there wouldn't be any more worries. But that's just what I told myself so that it felt easier for me to release. And so I would say by like day 30, I had like 30, 60, 90. So 30-day increments. And I would just check in with myself to see like where I was at and where my progress was. And by day 30, I didn't even remember the things that I wrote down and the worries that I had. So at that point, I started adding even more things, other things that were on my mind, or decisions that I needed to make, or things that I was just wrestling with that I didn't feel at peace with. And one thing, for example, was just with my fertility journey and just constantly thinking about, well, when is it my time, and when are things going to change, and when is that aspect of my health going to turn around, and it just constantly being on my mind. So I told myself for those 90 days, like at that point, I think I had added that on at the 30 days. So from 30 to 90, I was going to give that to God too, since I gave Him the other things and I was able to be at peace. So I added on the fertility thoughts and all of that. And the same thing, by the end of the 90 days, I just felt so much lighter. And I finally understood what it meant to rest in God. And it took for me to kind of reframe how I thought about it. Just with people telling me to do it, it didn't click. But that was huge for me. So I don't know if you're in the same space that I was in as well, and you need to just rest in God and find peace in Him. I would highly suggest trying out, like, have your own 30, 60, 90-day plan and just release it. You'll be surprised just how much, like I said, how much lighter you'll feel. Now it's, those things aren't even really a thought. And not that I don't have days that I do sometimes think about those things, that I have thoughts, the same thoughts with my fertility journey about, like, well, when is it my time? But they don't weigh on me as heavy as they did before. And now I can rest in God. I can rest in knowing that He has a plan and that He has a purpose for my life. And when it's my time, then it's my time, and I will be okay in this waiting season. And I can be okay as I rest in Him. If any of that resonated with you or aligns with you, and if you're in a similar space in life or a similar journey, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and to join me on my journey so that we can just do this together. But thank you so much for taking this time with me and having tea. I am about to go finish the rest of the cake. It should be out of the oven soon. So I will meet you guys back in the kitchen. All right, now that we have the strawberries cut up, I'm going to take the cake out of the pan. This is where it usually gets a little dicey. This is always the part that makes me nervous, to transfer it from here to the cooling rack. And then after that, we'll finish up the strawberries. So, the moment of truth. Cut around like that. Nice. There we go. Nice. Gonna let that cool, and then we're going to add just a little bit of sugar to our strawberries. Bring out the flavor a little bit, sweeten them up. So we'll do 2 tablespoons. 1, 2. I'll do a little extra because I kind of cut up a little bit too many strawberries. Calls for 1 cup, but I like a lot of whipped cream, so a little bit more. Then the vanilla is like about a tablespoon. No, I do not know how to freehand and measure, but it looks about right. And then Sarah's recipe doesn't call to sweeten the whipped cream, but I always like to have just a little bit of sweetness to it. So I'm just adding some maple syrup. This is my old faithful mixer. I had this, I think, even before I got married, probably from Target or who knows at that point. Something told me I should have took my stand mixer out, but we're almost there. So we're just whipping it until stiff peaks form, to where when you lift up the mixer, the whip starts to lift up with it. Now we put everything together. Slide that on. Make sure it's fully full so we don't have a mess. Spoon of strawberries. And we're just gonna garnish it with one of the strawberries is cut like a heart, so I have to add that. So we'll add it to them. Is the taste test part. When I sit and watch like a YouTube short or there we go. The cake is still a little warm, which is actually how I like it. Maybe not ideal if you were serving this, but my channel, so we get to do it my way. Melted whipped cream and all. All right, let's add, I like a lot of strawberries on mine. It's pretty foolproof. That's what I like about this recipe. But that concludes our video. It was so nice just hanging out in the kitchen with you guys and having our fireside chat. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye, guys.